Welcome, Amikizes. Before I start talking about what we are going to do today, I want to say, I think, two things. The first one is that this video is the first video ever on this brand new channel that I just made, and it's called Codespi. And I'm actually I do have another channel, but this channel is only in Urdu or Hindi. So as you can already tell, I am speaking English right now, and the reason for making another channel is nothing but the only reason that comes to mind because why would I? Because I want to reach as many people as possible. So that's why. And the other thing is, I have never done a video in English. So you might notice that I am talking slowly or maybe slower. So you're going to have to bear that. So I have no idea how this is going to go, and also this is going to take some getting used to. So let's begin our video, and enough for the introduction. And again, welcome to the very first official video on this channel. So we are going to try to print a diamond shape on the terminal, and using this function that I have already declared kind of, and also made a call, but there is no logic, of course, as you can see. So what we want to do, let's just focus on how we are going to do it. And I have this Jamboard, and this is going to be our whole 2D shape that we want. And this portion right here is this yellow part is what we, or should we say, where we want to print that star. This portion over here is going to be blank spaces, and so is going to be this. This is none of our business, this area over there. So what we want is, let me get this pencil. We are always going to start from this point, and you should consider that this is an array, and of course it is a two-dimensional array to be precise. This is going to be 0 and 1, 2, 2. Also, the part 2 of the second part is that because I am trying so hard to sound like a native, so you are going to also notice this, that I am making the weird sounds. Anyway, moving on. So this is going to be 3 and 4, and this is 5, and so on. You get the point. And this is also rows 1, 2, 3, and so on. So we are going to start from this point and move along. This is going to be, of course, recursively, as you have seen. So this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And one thing that I want you to notice here is that this thing over here is reducing, and it's approaching 0, because if you look at these columns, this is starting from this point, and this point is going to be what? This is going to be our radius. So suppose that this is 5. So it's going to start from this point and move back. We will see that if a certain value that we are going to store in a variable, a static variable, if it is less than this boundary, let's consider, let's call it a boundary. and it is something like this. If we consider or think of this as a grid, this is kind of like this. So if we haven't reached this boundary, which we will call lower boundary, then we are going to print a empty space, and otherwise also the other condition is going to be this. Let's call this one an upper boundary. So if we are greater than lower boundary and less than the upper boundary, we will print a star, and this is going to be a static. Lower boundary variable is going to be static, and upper boundary variable is also going to be static. So if we change this, this is going to be the same for all recursive calls. If we are beyond this, or beyond, should I say, I don't know, if we are back in this area before this lower boundary, then we will print an empty space. And if we are between this area, and of course this will be decremented each time, lower boundary is approaching 0 and upper boundary is increasing, and we are going to focus only on the lower boundary. And I mean the base condition is going to be focused on this lower boundary. We will see in a bit. But the logic is we are gonna print an empty space if we haven't reached the lower boundary. Otherwise we will print a star, and the stars are going to be printed only if we are less than the upper boundary. Otherwise we will stop. Stop means move to the next row. So hopefully this is kind of a giant now. Let's make it happy. Let's start with those static members that I talked about. So the first one is going to be called upper boundary, and we will initialize it with something that I will show you in a bit. But the other one is going to be a lower boundary, and the third one is going to be, I don't know, you already know that you can call your variables anything you want, but this is what I want. So this is going to be radius plus 1, and I am gonna of course show you and also tell you why plus and minus. So this is 5. It's going to be the radius is 5, so the upper boundary is kind of this, like 6, and the lower boundary is going to be 4. So remember these. Also I will just, and this is going to be 0, and now let's I will show you how we are going to do this. So if that jar is less than or equal to lower boundary, then we will print what we said in the add, that we will print an empty space. So, and the other one is going to be a recursive call, but we will pre-decrement this that jar, and then of course pass this to the print diamond function, the recursive call. The other case could be else if that jar is less than upper boundary. Now we are not going to check less than or equal to, otherwise it's gonna be an extra, so we don't want that. I will show you in a bit why. In this case we will also do this, but instead of an empty space, we are gonna print that star. Now I will show you what is going on here. Now that jar, this one, is starting from 0 because we have an empty initializer, so it's going to start from here, and we are saying that if it is less than or equal to lower boundary. So the value of lower boundary is 4, so that jar has the value of 0. It's starting from here, and it's going to print an empty space. Then it's calling itself with a changed value, an incremented value. So it now it is in the column number 1, so it's here, and it is less than or equal to 4. still, so it will print still an empty space, and it will go on and on until it reaches 4. At 4 it is less than, not less than, but it is equal. So if it is equal, it will still print an empty space. And then we are saying else if that char is less than upper boundary. So the value of that char at that point would be 5. So this condition is not true anymore, but this one is, because upper boundary, remember, it's 6. So 5 less than 6 is true. So it will print 1 star, and then it's calling itself with an incremented value again. So it will become 6. So at that point, none of these conditions is true. What do we want? We want to move to the next row, and we need some changes as well. So how do we move to the next row on the terminal? Well, that is very easy. We insert a new line, but this is also going to be in a condition, because we remember we are in a recursive function. So everything I mean, if we are going to have a recursive call, it always must be in an if statement. So this one is going to be, and I will explain what it means, but for now just hold on. Lower boundary is not equal to upper boundary. So in this one we need another thing, because for now we are only interested in this upper pyramid kind of thing, this triangle. We will print the lower part later. So in this one we want the lower boundary to decrement, because we are, remember, starting from this one and we are decrementing, and eventually it will reach 0. And then we want the upper boundary to increase, and also that char starts from 0 always, because we are on the new line. So let's do that as well. We are on a new line, so on every new line that char has to start from 0. So we reset it to 0 and then make a recursive call, and this does not matter. You can pass any integer over here, because we are only using this value at this to initialize these two static members or variables, and never use this radius thing ever again. So it does not matter what you pass in this. So let's just keep it 0. So this will call itself again, and these conditions will be checked. This won't happen again because they are static, and this is it. But this condition for now is not good. So let me just show you. If I make it 0, because remember we are checking only if the lower boundary is greater than 0. If it has not reached 0, we will only do this until then. So this will show you print the upper part, the upper triangle. So let's just see that for now. If I run this, we see the upper part. Now we want the lower part as well. So what do we need to do? I will show you what we need to do. We are starting from this point. Now first we decremented the lower boundary and incremented the upper boundary. Now we want to increment the lower boundary, because see, it is starting from 0 column, then it is moving 1 2 3, and this one is starting from whatever, we don't care, but wherever the upper boundary is, we want to decrement it each time, and it will approach to this, and finally at some point upper boundary and lower boundary are going to become equal. And that is why this condition needs to be this: until they are not equal, do this. Now how do we know that we want to increment the lower boundary or decrement the lower boundary? For that, we can have another static member. It will be a boolean, and we can call it lower, and by default this is gonna be false, because first we want to print the upper triangle. You can also call it upper, so like that. So maybe let's just keep it that way, but I was lazy, because if we make it upper, then we are going to have to make it true, or type true here. But if we leave this boolean lower, and if we leave this initializer empty, it's going to default to false. So that is why I used lower. So that's just a lazy programmer. So these two lines need to change. They need to be conditional. So what and how we can achieve that? If the, let me just move this new line below. Now, before that, how do we know that the upper part has finished? We will know the upper part has finished when the lower boundary becomes 0, wherever it started. When it becomes, or if it becomes 0, that means the upper part of this diamond thing has been printed successfully. So now we want to set this upper to false, I mean true. So if we write not lower boundary, then we set the lower to just lower to true. If it becomes 0, because we are noting it, so it is going to become 0 is false. So if we take a not on that, it is going to become true. So if it is 0, you can of course also write it like this if you are that kind of programmer, but I don't personally like that, so I'm going to leave it like that. So the lower is true. So if lower, that means we are printing the lower part. In the lower part, we want to increment the lower boundary and decrement the upper boundary, like that. Otherwise, if it is not, then there's only gonna be one chance, if it is true, or otherwise it's false. These two guys need to be in here. If we are in the upper part, then the lower boundary needs to be decremented and upper boundary needs to be incremented. This is lower boundary coming this way, and the upper boundary is going that way. And if it is lower, then lower boundary needs to increment and upper boundary needs to decrement. And this will be lower boundary going that way, and the upper boundary is going this way, and eventually they are going to be equal. And we are only doing this until they are not equal. So the new line is always going to happen, that char is always going to be reset, and this recursive call is always going to be made. So that's all we need. Now if we run this much, this is going to give us a kind of a diamond of this radius, and it is working. And if you can make any size, as you know, this will give you a diamond of radius 10. This is the big guy, and you can also make it, let's make it a little bit fun, make it 50. This is too big, but one thing, the important thing is that it is exiting with the code 0, and it is working fine. You can of course, this cannot go smaller than that, but it is an actual diamond. And that was pretty much it. And again, I will I don't know, this is of course going to take a lot of getting used to, and this is only my first video ever. And also tell me how I did, and I mean, was I good, was I bad? And also let me know how you if you understood the concept the way I explained, and tell me everything. So Also, I'm gonna draw I don't know if that's legal, but why not? He's smoking. So that's it for this video, and I will see you in another one.